In today's video, we're taking a look at some interesting rumors around the Toronto Maple Leafs. For one, is the Mitch Marner drama trade scenario that's been unfolding through the media the past couple months impacting free agents' decisions to go to Toronto? Could we see a change in the captaincy of the Toronto Maple Leafs? And could have Mitch Marner been traded to the Nashville Predators before free agency started? Reports indicate that one former Leaf was trying to recruit his team to bring him down. We'll discuss the details of all that and get your opinions coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some interesting Toronto Maple Leaf rumors and things to take a look at here today. Lots of speculation still about how the rest of the offseason is going to unfold for the Maple Leafs. A few things that we could see happen, and of course some kind of what ifs, if you will, as well. I mean, for starters, let's get started with some information from Elliotte Friedman when he was on Sportsnet during the free agent frenzy telecast on Sportsnet. I believe he was on with, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Nick Kyprios and Justin Bourne, talking a bit about the Leafs and Marner. And one of the quotes that he's been getting a lot of attention for here since then, the past couple of days, is whether or not the whole Marner situation, and I guess we're calling it the situation because we know that at this point, it looks less likely that we're going to see a Marner trade now than what we thought even a week ago or earlier in the offseason after they were first eliminated from the playoffs. I don't think we can completely rule out a Marner trade at this point. I don't think anybody can say 100% it's not going to happen. It just seems, I think the odds are a little bit less now. But keep in mind, it was further into the offseason before when we saw the blockbuster trade with the Panthers and the Flames with the Matthew Tkachuk situation. We can still see some big deals, especially as RFA contracts get sorted out, because a lot of them are not done here as of yet. But we know that this whole Marner thing's been in the media for quite some time now, since their season ended, and whether or not he was going to get traded, and they need to break up the core. All the comments from management saying they had everything on the table, and going to consider anything, everything, and probably not running back to the same team. And here we are. We still have largely the same group, and they've made some moves, but nothing real crazy besides working on the back end a little bit. But Friedman's comment basically says that the whole drama around the Marner situation and whether or not he's going to be traded and the whole hoopla with it, wonders if it was having an impact on players wanting to come and sign in Toronto. Typically, Toronto's been a pretty good destination. Never have really, for quite a long time, have had issues attracting free agents, especially hometown talent, because there's plenty of NHL players from the Toronto area or from the province of Ontario who grew up Leaf fans, would love to have an opportunity to play there. There's never been really an issue at all. He said he had one NHL player tell him that he would want absolutely no part of it. I'm not sure who that was, obviously, that told him. At the end of the day, free agency is not really over, but the bulk of it and the heavy lifting has been done for a lot of NHL clubs, and the Leafs did make a few signings. Like I said, nobody really in the forward group per se, but pretty well all on the back end. We saw them bring in, again, a local boy, Chris Tanev, signs with the Leafs after acquiring his signing rights from Dallas. They get him locked up. Then they brought in Yanni Hakanpää, a 2-year deal from Dallas, which are some questions about his knee and whether, how healthy he is, I guess you could say. And then, of course, they also signed Oliver Ekman-Larsson from the Florida Panthers. They did bring in Anthony Stolarz. And to be honest, if it comes to the Marner stuff, I think that the situation regarding that would probably be the goalies would probably be the least likely to really be impacted and really care too much. They tend to be a different breed altogether, and just kind of, I think, typically, in most cases at least, do better at blocking out the noise. So I don't know that it would really impact them. But they brought in a few defensemen, and it's not like they didn't get any free agents, obviously. And this was, when he said this was early into the game. So it wasn't even a case of, wondering that nobody was going to come. But I just found it interesting that other players around the league are paying attention to this, and it could have an impact on it. I think it's fair to say that enough players have come in and out of the Leafs at the trade deadline especially, or short-term free agent contracts in the last even 2 to 3 years, where they've been supposed to be stronger contenders, and a lot of them have not stayed, some of which we know was cap-related, and some of which was their own personal choice. So at the end of the day, it's just interesting to hear how other players may impact and how they feel about things here, and it just makes you wonder if it did have any impact on other players deciding to go elsewhere. We may never know the answer to that, but just found it very interesting. Of course, we did hear from Nick Kypreos as well, saying that he's been told that former Toronto Maple Leaf Ryan O'Reilly was recruiting his Nashville Predators team heavily to trade for Mitch Marner, knowing, of course, would have an inside edge on all the ins and outs and all the hoopla around this player, that if he was going to get dealt, was trying to push his team, the Nashville Predators, to trade for him. Now, when we talked before, when the Leafs were first eliminated and all this was kind of getting attention and all this was being brought up about a Marner trade, that the Predators were definitely one of the teams that I know that I looked to. I looked at teams like Nashville, teams like Vegas, players like to play in those destinations, so it'd be more likely that he would agree to go, for starters. Secondly, we knew Nashville was definitely a team that wanted to add more offense. Well, they did that in a big way through free agency, so as much as O'Reilly was pushing for a Marner trade, it's hard to imagine that coming together now, given that they signed Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea. They've added quite a substantial amount of talent and contract dollars here, so can't imagine another mega contract like Marner's is something that would be really feasible. You wouldn't think. So I think that all those signings probably really took Nashville out of the trade market, at least for anything big. They could definitely make some trades on a smaller scale, players that are more depth players, in and out type of deal. But yeah, I don't know that we're going to see a Preds trade involving Mitchell Marner. But Vegas is another team. But interesting to hear, though, that O'Reilly was pushing for his team to make a move. Because, like I said, we don't know if Marner's going to be asked to waive his no-move clause. And if he is, where would he go? There are some reporters, like Dave Pagnotta, who said it on record numerous times that he feels there's 4 teams that he'll go to, but he never says what the 4 teams are that he thinks he would waive for. So I do think Nashville probably would be one of them. I mean, if you look around the NHL and you look at this, what are the top destinations that most players would, if they had a chance to leave their team, where they would go? So, I honestly think of like Vegas, Nashville, and then of course either the Lightning or the Panthers, because there's obviously great weather, beach, etc. Depending on what you like for a lifestyle, living in Florida is good that way, which you used to hear a lot about players in California. Or if you really want the big city glitz and glam, sometimes, markets like the New York Rangers or the LA Kings, etc. Sometimes it is appealing to some players too. So we don't know. We don't know where Marner would go, if he would move anywhere at all. But Nashville definitely would have been a team that probably would have been in that mix. I know Barry Trotz was even asked point blank about Marner before free agency. This would have been, even before the draft, before the cup was even handed out. And he didn't really say a whole lot, obviously being a player that's under contract elsewhere. But the way he responded is I definitely got the impression he would want to, we already knew anyway, like he was going to be aggressive to add offense. So I really thought there might be a real legit chance there that maybe that's where it would go. And obviously Ryan O'Reilly was thinking the same thing, but instead Barry Trotz had other ideas on how to do that without giving up a bunch of assets that would be, obviously a depletion. You have to lose a bunch to gain a bunch, and that can be problematic for some teams to really get better overall. So hard to say. There's also been a lot of chatter too within the media. And I've seen it discussed on the an Overdrive program, and I've seen it discussed elsewhere in other media outlets about the Leafs maybe should consider a captaincy change. We know that John Tavares is entering the final year of his contract. It's quite possible this is his last year as a Maple Leaf. Not a guarantee, though. I think to some degree, if you look and listen to the fan base, and depending on how he plays this year, I wouldn't be shocked if he did re-sign for a much smaller contract. I can see him taking a smaller role, smaller paycheck, and kind of becoming a different player. But the only thing is with Tavares, I don't know that John Tavares is one of those veteran guys that can go from being like a top offensive producer to a bottom 6 guy. I don't know that he's really gonna have the skating to do that. I mean, not like he can't win board battles, not like he can't win face-offs, not that he can't be okay defensively. But if you look at a lot of the veteran guys that have had their game evolve into their later years and evolve into playing a different style and all that, a lot of it has to really be the fact that they've been able to remain healthy and that they're terrific skaters. And I just don't know that that's how you would describe John Tavares. But could he still have a role beyond the coming season? I think that's quite likely. I don't think he's, at that close to the end of his career. To sign him for a more reasonable number that would be closer to what he's actually would be valued at now. I'm not sure what that number would be. Even if he did like $3 or $4 million for a couple extra years, or even, I don't know, maybe no more than 5. It's hard to say because we don't know how this year's going to go. And this year, his performance is definitely going to dictate what is available to him for next year and beyond. And I think for a lot of it too for the Leafs, if they somehow go into this year and have another first round exit and don't make any progress, they may not want to bring back Tavares at all. They might be more inclined to make a bigger shakeup. And while obviously not bringing him back as a free agent would be a big way to shake things up, they'd have a different core altogether. Could they then, because we don't know how the Marner situation is going to play out. Just because he hasn't been traded, it doesn't mean he's going to be extended. And we could see, an even bigger shakeup next year if it doesn't happen this year. It's just hard to say. But all in all, regardless of all that, Tavares, could be done, or he comes back on a shorter, cheaper contract. At some point in the near future, that C on his jersey is most likely should probably go to another player. And most people feel it should be Austin Matthews. And to be honest, I wouldn't be opposed to them making that move now. But to do it, I don't think you strip Tavares of the C. I don't think you do it in a mean kind of way or whatever. Like, I'm not sure how you do it. You don't really want to completely, make him feel completely unwelcome and unwanted. I think you go to Tavares and you talk about like a plan, so to speak. Just like, sometimes you see different things like in St. Louis, like how they already know who their next GM is going to be and they're kind of grooming him to take over. They could talk to Tavares about the fact that, Matthews has been learning under his tutelage and watching him as a leader for the past couple of years, or since he's had to see, and they feel like, it might be a good time to consider making a change. You could still give John Tavares an A. Doesn't mean like he can't have anything or what have you. And to me, you have to talk to him, get him on board, almost make it like it's his idea if you're going to do it. And then you kind of have like a passing of the torch, so to speak. And then you'd be like, okay, he's going to be the captain now. I'm going to be here to support him. I'll still offer any guidance, anything like that. I've been around a long time. I've been a captain a long time. I can still offer lots of support. But he gets to wear that letter, and he gets the burden of it now, and I'm just kind of in the background, being extra support, extra help, so to speak. And, to me, I honestly think it might do the team a lot of good. Not to say that they absolutely have to do this, but in my opinion, John Tavares seems like a real good person. He's been a good hockey player his whole career. I just don't know that he's really a great leader, to be completely honest. I mean, he's the kind of leader that you can say leads by example on the ice. He's always been a really hard worker. There's no doubt about that. But just his leadership style, he's so kind of dry, and everything like that. Just having a captain, I think that's maybe can speak more to the younger players and maybe can relate to them better and can kind of give a new energy into that role, I think, would be really, really good. And I'm not really sure what Austin Matthews is like in the locker room, but it might be a wise move to make that change this summer. Because if you think it's going to happen the year after anyways, to me it almost might have more impact to do a passing of the torch while Tavares is there and in the moment and in the role, as opposed to maybe next year. You don't know, is he going to be back? Will you sign him back? Because you don't know. A lot of it's going to be determined as the season goes on. And it could be a way to give the team a lift, to be completely honest. Like I said, you have a lot of players that are more in line with the age of Matthews than Tavares. Maybe a different leader on the ice. I mean, it's the same thing as anything else. Eventually, you got to try something new. At some point, you're going to hand that C over and let somebody take the reins. Why not now? I mean, there was a lot of speculation when Tavares got the captaincy in the first place, and it's been a few years, that Matthews was seriously being considered. But then he also ran into an issue that summer before they named the captain, and unfortunately Matthews had, I don't even remember exactly what, it wasn't really that big a deal, but it was a minor legal issue. He got in trouble with the police while he was in Arizona during the off season, and had to, he did face a minor charge. And again, not really that big a deal. I don't think it's anything most people even remember. But because of that, just from a PR perspective, the Leafs likely were like, okay, well, if we were going to consider that, we can't now. Let's just go the safe route here, give it to Tavares. He's been a captain for a long time with the Islanders. He knows how to handle the media. That doesn't bother him. Like, Tavares is like a robot. Like, he can speak to the media. He can... he can talk to everybody, and he just operates, and then nothing seems to really get to him a whole lot. And obviously, it's time. I think it's fair to say it is time for a change. I'm not completely opposed to that. I think it would be a great idea for the Leafs. So let me know what you think. For starters, are we still going to see a Marner trade? What would a trade to Nashville have looked like? So let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. And if you think it's completely impossible now, considering all the money they've spent on free agency, should we see a change in captaincy? And should it be Matthews? Should it be done before next season starts? And then, of course, do you think the Marner drama and the whole situation evolving around the potential changes to that core and everything, is it really impacting players' opinions on wanting to play in Toronto? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll be back later with another news video covering the rest of the news from around the entire NHL. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.